she is, my goodness.
8-9. I'm turning 9-5.
Everybody awake?
Well, that woke everybody up.
Yep.
Call to order of the Capital Projects Committee of October 16th. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Dobler,
Here.
Mr. Kinley,
Here.
Mrs. Petrowski,
Here.
all present.
Okay, item 3, courtesy of the floor. Public comment on any of the agenda items. Step forward and give your name and place of residence. Seeing none, we'll go to number 4, project discussions.
So you all should have a copy in front of you of what we reviewed at the board meeting with the full board of the projects that were pulled off of the priority list. I have a copy of the longer priority list if we need to look at it, but I put in front of you the 6 projects that were priority pulled off of that list. I do know, and Mark and I think we said this in the full board meeting, that total, the estimate totals 1.2 million, but we believe we could get that down as we bid it out, and if you'll recall, that includes soft cost and contingency for each of those projects. So really the conversation tonight is, as a capital projects committee, 2 things. One, going forward from tonight, the plan was to put an agenda item on the October 23rd meeting, and that is part of tonight's conversation, making sure that capital projects is ready for that conversation and understanding that the agenda item for October 23rd will be to move forward and commit capital projects funds for projects and listed as not to exceed an amount. My conversation with Site Logic is, if we choose to adjust what we do in that list beyond the 23rd, they can do that for a short period of time, but because they don't feel they need to have the projects approved on the 23rd with the commitment to move forward with the funds, if that makes sense. That essentially we would be telling them, the board approved to move forward with a project not to exceed $1 million, and they can then come back and work with capital projects and give you updates about, as they design, where each of the projects are in terms of design and final cost, if that makes sense.
It would be the items listed here.
That's where we are right now.
Okay, so they can't change that to a different.
They would not be able to change that without board direction. Neither would I.
So they've seen this list?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are they comfortable that, I mean, the plan, I think, was to have all these done like next summer?
Mm-hmm.
And that is doable or whatever?
They said, they're still saying that's doable, because as soon as, if we would vote on October 23rd to approve it, they would immediately start designing what would need to be purchased and what would need to happen with each one of these things.
And were they comfortable too, that they think if it goes out to bid and stuff, that they could get under the million or not, or at the million?
I believe so, and one of the other, and Mark, you can weigh in here if you feel like you have something if I'm not saying something correctly. I believe so, yes, and the other thing is just pointing out to your attention, some of the things that are on this list, the controls and the heating plant and the boiler pumps, those were all things similar to what we did at the high school and middle school that you just got a credit for from UGI. So some of what they might tell you as we start to design this project is what rebates and things are out there that you might have a cost above $1 million up front, but you might be promised a rebate at the same time. And all that would be part of the conversation as they design this. They won't know that until they design it.
Do you know how much those rebates were?
So we just got 80,000 from UGI for, it was 40 for high school and 40 for middle school.
So where did that go?
I think it will go back into capital projects.
Okay, that's my question.
And that's not on the estimate that Ben just gave you guys. So that's not accounted for here either. It's-
Yeah, we were just made aware of that last
Yeah,
week.
he provided this estimate to you before we got that information. So that capital projects estimate will also go up.
We don't, did we get those yet, or is that what you're gonna hand out?
That was on an update, but I have it. I made copies.
I missed it.
That's all right. That's why I made copies. So I'm gonna hand you all a copy of the Mr. Kinley had asked for, I think it wasn't at the last meeting, it might have been 2 meetings ago, of where your capital project fund stands, or will stand on June 30th. So that's what I'm handing out. I did confirm with Ben, this does not account for, because we could project it, but it's still a projection. I think if you recall, he reported to the board that there would be additional funds once we receive our audited financials, but until the board commits those additional funds to capital projects, he didn't put them on this list. So when you get your audited financials in November or December, when the audit is finalized, you could make a commitment, and I think that was the plan, of those funds to capital projects, which would give you another, we're estimating, $500,000. But that's not on this worksheet because it's not committed there yet.
So then this list here is not out of this. then?
No.
No, we would, well, it depends on the audit and the balance that the board would want to move over. But right now, we're roughly, if we add the 80,000 on, and if these numbers are fairly close, we're roughly 200,000 short
Correct.
of what we need to cover the 1.267.
And I think based on this list, if the board says we're committing $1 million, then Mark and I are going to tell SiteLogic, that's all you get. Like, if we have to take 1 or 2 things off of this list to make that work, then we do that. And then that would be where the committee would give input to SiteLogic as they move forward.
Now, the only issue is if they move forward with only $1 million, well, they can make this work perhaps without deleting anything with $1 million. So that's probably the worst case scenario, because at least Ben projects we're gonna have at least something to move from the audit, as a result of the audit, into the capital projects. I assume these aren't in any priority order. They're just by school, right?
I think, Mark, we did priority order these.
Yeah, they all kind of play hand in hand with one another. The CTE shop ventilation, that's by itself, but the Avis HVAC control work, the Avis, that would be replacing the heating plant. That would be 2 boilers and pumps at Avis. Saldaysburg would be the same thing as Avis, replace, there's 1 boiler at Saldaysburg right now, we would replace that with 2 boilers. And the pumps, the 3rd one down there would be at Saldaysburg as well. But we're looking at with the Salisbury domestic hot water heater, I met with Hunt Engineering last week to talk about that a little bit, with probably not putting a water heater in, it'd be a different design, using the boiler to heat the domestic water through a flat plate that would go right on the wall and heat the water through that. It's just a lot better than the tanks that we have now. They last a lot longer. The tanks that we have now might last 8 to 10 years, and they cost about $19,000-$20,000.
Gotcha.
Would that adjust this estimate?
I don't know without seeing,
Okay.
because it's gonna take some doing to get what we want, but, I can't honestly say it's gonna be more or less right now.
So the shop ventilation is a top priority, right, separate from, right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, and then the Avis, is it the HVAC control or the one underneath heating plant?
The DDC HVAC control, what that is, the building right now is, all the controls work from pneumatics, it's all air, runs by air.
Okay,
It's original to the building, it's the only building that we have that still uses pneumatics. The efficiency that you'll get from that is having a day-to-day schedule that the building will run off of. Now, there's maybe 4 things at Avis that are controlled by pneumatics, and it's just, you don't have a lot of control over what the building's doing as far as
okay.
big equipment running.
So that you would want, instead of the heating plant, if you have to choose between the two, right? Is that what
That's
you're
something
saying?
that's critical that needs
Yeah,
done at Avis,
it's
yeah.
more. And then the Salisbury, the one you were talking about was replace the heating plant,
Yep.
correct? Okay. I just want to make sure I highlighted the right things.
That would be the boiler that heats the water for the heating system, and the Salisbury's actually the oldest boiler that we have.
Okay. Okay.
Any other questions?
I guess the one thing we should discuss, Wayne, is, if the motion is going to be to move forward and give them a limit, do we want to discuss the limit, or you want to wait till Monday to discuss the limit? You want to make a recommendation from the committee?
Yeah, but to me, even if we would say $1 million, I think it's subject to change. I mean, probably within another month, we're going to get the audit report. So the board could take action to, I don't know how quickly,
Oh, so we'd have to vote again anyhow. We can give them this list as a priority.
I would say, yes.
Okay. And let them see what they come in with.
Yeah,
Okay,
I mean, nothing's going to be
okay.
obviously written in concrete until they come back to us, but, I mean, we got, I would feel comfortable saying we got enough wiggle room that even if it comes into this amount, that we're gonna be okay. But I would say officially, our recommendation should be $1 million.
We can give them a not to exceed $1 million.
Yeah,
Then they can design it and bring back the design and show you what
yeah, if it's $1.1 million,
it's gonna look like.
right.
The one thing that's not on the list that we talked about, I think Damien might have talked about it a few meetings ago, that they're gonna work some cost in for any kind of asbestos abatement. I'm pretty confident that the abatements that they've done here in the past are good, but you almost always run into something with asbestos, especially like the high school that was cleared as an asbestos abatement free, everything was clean in the building. And then when you go demoing the boilers, the internals, I mean, the boilers are literally cut up in pieces. So that's when they run into those things, and then that stuff, that's obviously gonna be another cost, but, I think what we should do is probably get, EHC, that's the company we work with for asbestos, and they can come in and kind of get eyes on things, and we can send samples out and kind of get a better idea of what that'll look like.
And I have no idea, I mean, I'm thinking, even if something like that would occur, that we could cover that with
Yeah, it's just something,
other
Contingency.
funds, yeah.
it's just something I want everybody to be prepared
Yeah.
for if we would run into that, then, because there hasn't been one job here that I've done like this that didn't run into something like that.
So
Well, and
there's-
I think that's where that contingency is, that's what it's there for.
And
So they-
these, like these jobs, all these projects right here, they're all basically in the mechanical room at the school, so it's not gonna leave that area for right now as far as any kind of additional asbestos or anything like that. It's gonna be, you know, the boiler internals and the insulation that's around all the piping and things like that. The fitting, sometimes they use asbestos back then. And like Salisbury Elementary, when they renovated Salisbury, they didn't touch the boiler room, so just even more makes me think that we're gonna run into some of that stuff in there.
Right. I remember running the numbers for the soft costs as a percentage. It was pretty constant across. It was at least 20%. So I think, again, I mean, everything almost would have to go wrong for us to use all that up. So I think we're in good shape.
Is
So
there
we
any
should
kind of
make a
question?
motion? What? I'm sorry.
Is there, with the shop ventilation, because I thought there was something where maybe, was something gonna get changed in that room or anything, or we definitely need to do that?
This is not manufacturing, this is building maintenance, correct?
Yep.
This was an extreme priority from our CTE audit.
Yeah, that's what I thought,
Yeah.
but then I thought I heard something that maybe there was something else that was gonna be done in there then, but we're gonna definitely still be using that room for the building
Would
maintenance.
be used for something, even
Yeah.
if it's not building maintenance, it'll be
Okay.
something, because it's set up as a CTE space.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's not that much, I mean, it's a lot, but it's not that bad, and it definitely needs done, but.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, do I hear a motion to recommend to the board this list of projects, 6 projects, with a cost not to exceed $1 million in order for Site Logic to move forward with design?
I'll make that motion.
Second,
A motion and second, any discussion? Could you read the list, please? At the senior high school, the CTE shop ventilation, 47,000. Avis, DDC HVAC control, 355,000. Also at Avis, replace heating plant, 398,000.
Yep.
Saudisburg, replace heating plant, 347,000. Saudisburg, replace domestic water heater, 94,000. And also at Saudisburg, replace boiler pump, 23,000. Next item, 4B Memorial Wall Project.
So you should have in front of you,
Did we vote? We have to vote?
You
oh,
have the first and second one.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
yeah, well, I missed it too.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried.
In front of you is an example of some items Mr. Wall put together for a memorial wall. If you remember, we talked about this last spring. There are actually funds that you put in the maintenance budget to do this. So Mark already has money in his budget to put this together. We just wanted to put in front of you for input some ideas of what it could look like before we move forward. Anything else you want to say about that, Mark?
I don't believe so. There's a couple of different options in there for you to take a look
Yeah,
at.
so which do you think that it would look like? Like, obviously, that first one here wouldn't be 240 on there, but,
I guess one of the things we talked about was where you would wanna put it in the buildings. The high school, I mean, that's kind of up to,
so were we thinking more inside the building or like
So
out?
this first one isn't set up to be outdoor, right?
Right, I
what I
thought we were
thought.
looking at like the stadium somewhere.
Yeah,
'Cause
that's why we gave you some outdoor options. I think the first one's outdoor, I think the other two are indoor.
correct.
And I believe on the policy somewhere it identifies the size of those plaques. The little you know, didn't we have a limitation on the size?
I think there was.
I'll double check
Yeah,
that.
I think there is in a
'Cause I
policy.
think
The
with
ones
band-
I've
I
seen
think with the band
outdoor-
person, I think we told
Yeah,
them
we
the
told
size.
them, yeah.
I think
I
you're
didn't
right.
see
I'll
that.
have to double check it.
I looked for that plaque, I didn't see it at the high school, at the,
Which one is it?
The plaque that we put up last spring, it was there last spring. Is it not
I
there
didn't see
anymore?
it, but it doesn't mean it wasn't, I
Which
just
one?
don't know where to
I
look.
put so much stuff up. I honestly can't
Was this
remember.
the plaque? I thought it was on the end, like where the band sits. I thought it
Yeah.
was on the end of one of the,
That's where they asked to put it, and it was there
Yeah.
last spring.
Yeah, I'm
Alright.
not sure if it's still there or not, I can't remember.
I'll look doubly hard
Okay.
on Friday.
I
I'll
think
look.
it was on the side, like
Okay.
if you come up this short set of steps, it was there on that corner.
Oh, okay, I did not look there, I was looking all around in the.
Yeah, it was
stadium.
on like the side of the bleachers
I
as
didn't
you
look
come up
there.
that little short set of steps.
Okay,
That's where I saw it. I don't know that I've noticed it or
okay.
specifically looked for it this fall, but in the spring, that's where it was. I think it was last fall it was there too.
Would
Yeah,
we
check
make that
tomorrow on
part
the
of
prayer.
this then?
That's what we talked about.
Okay, that,
I'll look
That's
at the
nice.
sizing of
yeah.
it.
Very nice.
So you would, I'm hearing outdoor, something like this first one.
I think so, what do you think?
yeah, 'cause you can put anything on the top of that.
Yeah,
You can put the, you know, the bulldog, you can do whatever you want up there.
Yeah, but with the outdoor though, from places where I've seen them, aren't they usually encased in something? Like, you know, like a plastic,
No.
no?
Not,
They're just
this is
out-
designed, this one's designed to be outside in the weather.
Okay,
And there's money in the budget for, I mean, we would purchase the sign and then anything additional, there's money in there for that, to cover it.
very nice, very nice.
So are these, I might have, I just don't remember the discussion. Is this, the intent of these is to recognize students?
We would sell these to people who wanted to honor
Oh, okay.
someone.
Gotcha.
As part of our capital campaign. So we would have to look at
240
also,
plates.
if this is outside, where is the most appropriate place to put it?
So these would hold 240 plates, it says?
You could go up to that many. So if
In other
you,
words, it depends on your size of the
Of
thing
the-
that you put on here, how many you could put on here.
Oh, okay,
Well, they got one selection of 24 by 48.
yeah,
that's, so you'd have, that one would be 2 foot by 4 foot.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest one they
I
make.
think the
'cause
biggest
it's,
one.
Yeah, 2 by 24 by 48 with 240 plates.
Are
Well, it
these,
looks like you're gonna put address labels if you get 240 on there. It'd be about this big.
It's probably gonna be very similar to the one at the
Like a-
high school right outside.
Like a name plot, it'd just be a name, which
Yeah, then roll little
isn't
screws
what
in.
we would want.
But like I said, I'm pretty sure in the policy identifies
Yeah.
for memorials. And I think that's what you had her, the parent do.
Decide.
Put this- And you really wouldn't have to put any of those plaques on here until you use them.
Do we have any current, is anybody currently, there's nothing ready to go as far as
No,
anybody that we want a plaque of
Right.
some sort of, yeah. Okay.
No, we had just talked about it last one, that, they wanted to put a plaque up there, we wanted to get something better to just funnel that through.
So this would
Yeah.
be for anything and everything, even besides sports stuff, or just sports?
it would be anything and everything.
Okay.
But it would still be a donation that would have to come back through the board.
Yeah, did you ever see that donation wall, Wayne, at the Penn College? When you, in the SASC building, like if you walk
Probably.
in there, yeah, like they have different amounts, like for like,
Yeah,
from such and such to,
Yeah.
100,000 or,
Yeah.
5,000
go
or
ahead.
20,000, and, yeah.
We'll take it.
I think
That's what I'm thinking,
We'll
but,
give you the whole plaque wall.
yeah, like Cumming College has that outside their football, well, it's attached to
yeah,
their-
Keystone Central has, that's why I
Stadium.
was looking forward to see that, and I guess they don't have, because I can't make it bigger, so you can't either, but I guess they don't really have it in a case. huh? Yeah.
I mean, do you think 24 by 48 is the right size? Or do you think it's,
How many plaques?
I
are
I
think-
mean, it's the largest, that is it?
It's the largest, but I think and I think Mrs. Thomas may be right. The number of plates determines really the size of the actual, like if we did 240, they might be this big.
Yeah, well,
And we probably want
yeah,
something, I'm gonna look at policy, because that might dictate,
That this might be how many plaques you have on that size.
well, but I mean, if we, just suppose we said, yeah, 240 at 24 by 48, I mean, we would need pretty large,
I think
Space.
a lot of places have multiple plaques,
Yeah,
and, they're just kinda stacked on top of each other, and
yeah, so if you'd need to buy more, but you'd want them to look the same though, I
yeah,
guess.
we'll have to
Yeah.
we'll have to
Yeah.
find out what size we're permitted to use and go from there.
yeah, because I think the total, the whole thing is 24 by 48. The number of
Oh.
plaques you get on it is
Gotcha.
determined by the size of the plaque that you pick.
gotcha.
So I think and that's why Mrs. Thomas was saying, I'm gonna look at the policy and get the size and try and get something as close to that as possible. I also just noticed we can pick the color. The background color.
There's that one he has attached to hers, kind of looks like black and orange.
Kind of, yeah. All right, I will get at least share, we'll move forward, but I'll share updates so that you can see where we're going with this.
Very nice. I like it.
I was looking at 24 inches by 48 inches as the size of a plate.
Times
Make a
240.
motion for
That'd be-
this as well? Or-
I don't think you do, because it's already in
We already.
Mark's budget. We're
Approved the
just
budget.
showing,
We just-
we're getting input on what
I
we
just
do
kept saying,
with
where
it.
is this plaque at?
Okay. Sounds good to me.
All right, any other discussion on that? Okay, item C, plan for future capital projects.
So this item is on the agenda because we had a conversation, I think it was in a full board meeting, about moving forward, we needed to have a conversation about, we have these capital project items on our list and wanting to make sure that we're thinking through what is the board's goals about how we go get those things off of that list and how we pay for it and how we prioritize them. So I asked to have that conversation with this group Because it really should, whatever we do should have this group's input into what do you think, how do you think we go about organizing it, bringing them forward to take them off the list, paying for it. And one of the conversations that I had today with Mr. Enders, which I thought was an interesting way of looking at it, is what is the committee's goals? Is it, do you want to see it as what we're doing now and making a list and saying, okay, we have this much money, we're going to take these things off the list? Or thinking broader and doing a larger project in a building? What is the committee's direction on how that occurs?
Well, the last thing that you, before this you gave us a list that had 3 summers on it. And from that list, you made this list. So, I don't think it came off all the same year, did it? Like, where's that list, where are we left with that list if
have
we
it.
do these?
So all of these things were in that first year.
Okay,
But not all of it.
Not everything off the first year would come off, but everything on this list was in
But
the
that's what I'm
first
saying,
year.
that's kind of where we need to know.
Yep,
where we're-
because they were prioritized that way as well.
Is this one you're talking about?
that's what I-
This one.
Wait, here, this one. This is it. That's one you're talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, this is they're the same thing, but they look different.
I don't think we should be looking into borrowing money to do a huge, big project at all. I think we need to fix what we can, year by year. And until we get our loans paid off for the development of the JSE building, I don't think that we should even be thinking about adding on to buildings, or doing anything huge. I think maintenance is the biggest thing, maintaining what we have. That's my thought.
Yeah, and do you still like keep that list up that you used to do, where you went to each building and?
Yeah, we have that list, and then we've done 2 feasibility studies since then. I
Yeah.
mean, it's all kind of into one, but,
But do you add to your list when you go in the buildings, when you see something that,
well, I mean, the general things that are on that list are not gonna, the condition may change, but the equipment's not going to change, so all that stuff is already there.
Yeah.
Nothing's gonna get added as far as
okay,
new,
yeah.
new equipment or anything like that, the buildings stay the same. But I think what we do need to do is start looking at, like what Mr. Enders said, what is the goal of the list? We've had this list for,
Right.
since I've been working here, and whittling away at it little by little. But I think eventually, things are they're gonna start needing to be replaced. I don't wanna get into a spot where it's too much, as far as
Right.
critical things like everything on this list that we gave is critical to the day-to-day functions of the school, heating being number one. I mean, if we don't have heat, we don't have school. So that's one of the, we didn't really veer from, these listings from the get-go. They've always been what needs to be done first. But yeah, I mean, I agree, maintenance is very important for all that stuff. But I think the list needs to be looked at and, what we wanna do going forward to start getting those things done.
Okay.
And we don't know what the future's going to hold. There might be some, great deal in the future. Maybe the state will, change the cyber school charges and
And that was,
all that. There'll be more money in the future for future boards to decide to do,
and that's what makes it really tough with projects, 3 or 4 years down the road. I've seen Like, even for an example, this HVAC control system for Davis Elementary, we did the very same thing at Salatiesburg Elementary 4 years ago for about $150,000. So that's just how much that inflated. I mean, it's basically the 50,000 square foot building with, controls on its unit ventilators and things of that nature that the control system is controlling. And we can have all those things on a list, but putting a cost to them is not gonna be as easy as it used to be. I mean, most of these contractors, vendors that you talk to, they give you, a week or two on the cost, and then it's subject to change. And
Right.
I don't see it going down. I see it, people are gonna keep buying stuff, and it's just gonna be the way it is. The cost is just gonna keep going up.
So the Capital Projects Committee, is that just to raise, not the committee, but the capital,
Campaign.
yeah. Is that just to raise money in general for any capital projects?
No, the committee actually has designated, we want to be able to go when we say we want money.
Right.
We have specific projects that and when we met today, one of the to-do items I have is to nail down the costs of those projects so that we can confidently say to people, we're trying to raise this much money for this item.
Now, that list, even a tentative list, that hasn't been shared with the board yet, or has it?
Did we share that with the board?
Okay.
Thought we did, but we're talking about follow-up sharing so that you guys have an idea where the committee is.
What roughly is the goal total?
We don't have a total yet until I mock up each individual
Okay.
item.
I'll have to go back. Was that shared a month or so ago, or?
It's been a while. I was just gonna say we need an update from her. Maybe you can just give us an update at the,
Next meeting?
is that?
All right,
I just wrote that down.
okay.
And in your update, you can send the issues that, you don't know money, that's okay, but the things that you're throwing out in the hat, so to speak.
Well, I think one of the things is to identify the possible funding sources for future projects. We know that, the campaign money could be. What would be nice is that, I think some school districts do that, they actually budget every year and place money in their capital projects fund.
We used to do that.
Yeah. I don't, at least when the numbers that I've recently run, I don't see where we're gonna have that kind of budget flexibility to do that. I think we're gonna be pushed to balance the budget without having that luxury. Of course, moving money, any excess revenue as a result of the audit is another funding source. Borrowing is another funding source. I'm just thinking of another one, but I have to go of it. So all of them are kind of iffy. And maybe when depending what's on the list and some dollars eventually, I would assume that what's on the capital campaign list probably are other things than what's Site Logic is identified?
Yes.
Yeah. I think capital campaigns are nice, but I think that, at least what I've experienced, buildings are not, sometimes they don't excite people.
Yeah, it's not gonna be a boiler.
Right, right. Well, good. So we'll see, but. Well, my thing is, I guess, to start off with this list as a starting point, and since you and Mark have identified these as being,
The first 6, Wayne, are the ones that are on that list that were just
yeah,
on that, so.
So I'm hearing you wanna do them as funding is available.
unless.
Unless you come back to us and say, okay, this is absolutely critical, we have
Right.
to do it within the next 2 years.
Yeah.
And then we got to look at something different.
Especially like the chillers in summer '26. I mean, they start giving us problems, that's $1 million roughly, that. I mean, the concern is if in a worst case scenarios of some of these things, these plus what's not even on the list become more of a priority and,
Yeah, that'll be a different conversation.
Exactly. But I think for now, I mean, I think it's still good to obviously have the long range. I mean, I don't have it with me, but there's a report that you did a year or so ago.
Yeah, that has all
Yeah,
the,
it goes all the way to 29 or 30. And it totaled roughly 10 million in that ballpark. And that was without the parking lot stuff, which, but my suggestion, it's up to the committee, but to use this as a starting guide. And it's going to be a year-by-year issue, I think, depending on if the priority changes at all and the associated amounts, plus what kind of funding is available in a particular year. But it seems like $1 million in that ballpark would be what we're looking at next couple of years. That possibly is doable. Obviously, this year it's easy. We already, we have it there, sitting there. The second and third years are gonna be the challenge. And,
One thing I think we will see by adding these boilers and we're not, obviously not gonna have $1 million, but we're gonna save a lot of money on natural gas. I mean,
Yeah.
The efficiency of them are, well, just not even in the same comparison to what we had.
but see, what we ought to do then is identify those savings and say, yeah, let's take those savings and dump those over into the capital projects fund. I mean, that's
essentially what you have been
yeah, that's,
doing.
yes, because it all ends up on the bottom line. And probably as we go forward, a lot of the bottom line is going to be those savings. And but it's not going to be $1 million. Well, I don't know, maybe Mark says it. But, and then, you know, if the board continues to say, let's hold off on borrowing until the current bonds are paid off, then, you know, 5 or 6 years from now, if we can get by doing that, then,
Another thing we look at, Wayne, is, I don't know when it starts, but we've already gone by some. For the first couple of years as we start to get money in from West Pharmaceutical, that goes into capital projects. The
Yeah.
additional, not the whole thing,
Right.
what they pay us additional.
yeah, the board could could designate any excess over what otherwise would be, yeah.
Well, and that could be back to what you had said about setting money aside in a budget. You could put capital projects money aside as you build the budget.
Yes.
And I might be wrong on this number, but back in the day, and I can go back 50 years for me, we used to put like around 150 in the budget. You recollect about that kind of money? And then we sometimes had, after the audit, we added more to it. Now it's like, we're not starting with any at the beginning, we're just waiting until the audit comes back.
Right. And that's the safest way, because once you move it over, you can't move it back. I mean, the worst-case scenario is that we move too much over, now we can't pay salaries. You wouldn't like that, would you?
There would be a lot of people
We
that
moved
wouldn't
that
like
much
that.
over.
So, I mean, the one nice thing about the way we've been doing the last couple of years is it's more of a wait and see. And fortunately, there's been extra dollars fall to the bottom line, and because at that point, you're already starting to operate in the current year, so the budget is already set for the current year, so unless something major happens, you can take that excess and move it over. Anybody else have any comments on future project? Is that what you were looking for?
That's what I was looking for.
All right,
What did he ask?
that's what he was looking for, as far as,
To follow
Oh,
the
okay,
schedule that
okay.
they put together.
I
So
know,
it's-
Wayne, you just talk so slow. And you're
I know,
away from
I
me.
don't have a strong voice, I know. So it's not only the projects themselves, but how we're gonna fund them.
Yeah.
And we know the costs are gonna change almost every other day, so.
All right, that's
Anything-
all I have.
Anything else on projects? Okay. Okay, courtesy of the floor for anything. Please state your name and your place of residence.
Merle Schweitzer. The chemistry classroom lab in the high school, we reviewed those in like, I think, 2020. We, the capital projects committee and the building and grounds committee. And those labs were really, I mean, they're in bad shape. And I wonder what has happened. Have those labs in the chemistry classroom been replaced? Or is that still?
It's on the list.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, we just talked about it last week.
It might, if you haven't looked at those, sometime might take a peek at those labs in that chemistry classroom. They're pretty bad shape.
What is our estimated cost for those?
Then it was 700,000, I think, for all of them.
Really?
That would definitely have to be relooked at.
Yeah,
But what we did, back, I met with.
40 years old, so I think they're.
They are. We had met with, it was Bill Ferguson at the time, and Bill had a lot of recommendations. We did address a lot of things in there that he had concerns with, but like Mr. Schweitzer said, I mean, the rooms are as old as the building at this point.
and the equipment is that in any shape that the quality of education to
I
a
would say
chemistry
it's-
student is being affected?
I would say it's inadequate for what they need. The way they had rooms like that set up in 1983 till the way they're set up now, 2023 is definitely a lot different. I don't know that they change what they do in there from year to year as far as curriculum, things like that, but it's outdated.
So I would say some of the equipment we can replace and update internally, but what we struggle with is the gas lines and the water lines come up through those lab tables. So Mark's team
That we just had
does a lot of work in maintaining those so that they can still be used, but they're not ideal. And that actually is on the capital projects, or capital campaign list.
Oh, okay.
Because we're trying to pull together a real cost for them to see if we can go out and ask people to donate towards, let's get those updated, because we think that's something that a business would get behind.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, to me, instructional projects like that are needed. Everybody's going to have their interests, let's face it.
Right.
So I think, until I
Is there
see,
two of those rooms or three?
There's two, there's back.
Just the
side
two of
to
them,
side,
okay.
yeah.
I mean, I know you have four in the E-wing science
Yep.
room. I don't know that they're any better, but I mean, that's the way they make them.
Yeah, they're not really equipped like.
But they don't have any gas or anything in
No.
any of them.
No, I think we really need to figure out, meet with the department heads up there and, see what and I've talked to them several different times over the years when Bill was here, now Alex is here. Just on needs that they have and what they'd like to see things look like in there. Because like I said, from 1983 to now, it's hard to say what they need or what they would want. Surely isn't what's there.
Well, for a while you turned them totally off.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, can you imagine technology from 1983 to now? I mean, if you didn't update that, that would be crazy.
is there any other areas like physics or any other?
Yeah, I had a question. Was that out of capital projects when you redid that parking lot up there beside Showcase Auto?
I think that was
Yeah.
capital project.
So, and I know I talked to you about that. Did you find out anything about with the kids parking there?
They are parking there, I think.
And are they giving them hang tags or they're
I
just
think
parking there?
I think what the students were told, don't plan to park there in the wintertime because we're not going to maintain it at all.
Oh,
So I think it's just, they're just parking there now, but definitely in the wintertime it's gonna stop, I would, because we're not gonna maintain.
yeah, I mean, I've seen that it's increased, because it was probably like 5 or 6 cars. Now there's probably like 11 to 15 cars. Because I had a concern too about, but he said, you don't want to put a crosswalk. Because there's no way to walk on that side for the students. So they're walking up there and then, they have to come across somewhere.
have
And
to
there's a
cross.
long line of cars that are coming in through there now. I said about maybe putting a crosswalk at the end of that to go across there, but he really don't want to do that if we don't really want to encourage them to be.
park there.
Right, yeah.
They can come down the path that the uptown students come
One thing
around.
that they don't do, they don't go out the one way, I figured that's what they would do, the easy way out, but they haven't
no.
been doing that, so.
What'd you say, Mary?
They can come down the path that the uptown students come down.
Oh.
It's around that.
You mean in
it's
through
around
the-
Around the water company.
Yeah.
Well, they don't though.
We could tell them that.
No,
Well, I mean, you're right there, really. I mean, you
Right,
got the
no, they
parking lot, you
park.
gotta go this way.
I
with the-
agree, yeah.
Do you plan on putting some kind of barrier or gate up there when winter comes?
I'm not sure, I don't think so, not unless it would come to that.
So if they park in there, it's at their own risk. I mean, as far as, they park there in the morning and it snows a foot,
I would think the building principal would have to let them know that, like, after a certain date, we're not gonna, that's what I would hope would
Yeah.
happen.
but even though you say that.
Yeah,
But it is what it is. so.
yeah, what I don't wanna see is, have happen is kids parking in there when there's, 6 inches of snow on the
Right.
ground. Cause you know what that'll be.
A mess.
All right, item 6, next meeting.
So I put suggested dates on the agenda that will match. They match when we met this year, just so that you all would see dates here. And as long as you don't have any issues, I'll do what I did last year and they'll go on the list when the board approves the board meeting dates for 2024. We'll put capital projects dates on that same paperwork like we did last year and advertise them all at the same time.
And I guess committee assignments will be done by the 15th.
Oh,
Will what be done by the 15th?
committee assignments,
Well, no, that's what I was gonna say. I think the January one has to go
move back.
because, Wayne and Patrice definitely won't be here. So there will be definitely will be a new
I
committee.
think we have a meeting, we should have a meeting on the 8th, but that doesn't mean we'll have the committee assignments finalized by then. I think there would be a meeting on the 8th, board meeting, I'm saying.
Could have it on the 29th, which is an open Monday.
I think that makes more sense. I'll move it. That way, if we don't have the committee finalized by the 8th, we're not trying to have a meeting. We're not trying to reschedule it and have to advertise.
So the January one is the one that you're talking
Yeah, on the
about,
29th.
changing to the 29th.
Okay.
And on that note, Wayne, I'd like to thank you for setting the committee this year. And Nancy and Patrice for being part of the committee.
Thank you.
I'm glad to be part of it.
And now you can do your last official act as capital campaign committee
that.
chair.
We'll have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Yeah.